All right, so I'm back again after round 3 with my second analysis. Sorry, sad news for myself mostly, and anyone in Novice who's been watching my videos. I did not have my GoPro for round 3, so there is zero footage despite some of the best racing we've had this season in Novice. So sorry, apologies, I've been busy and I just forgot. We'll be back for round 4 with the GoPro. Anyway, I did have my data logger hooked up, and I got some pretty cool data. So if you watched my last video, I had no idea what I was doing, but I had Demetrio send me a 127 lap, and I was doing a 129.5, this green line here. The green line here is the same lap from the last video. And I basically was like, hey, why am I slow? Well, obviously I'm slow because I suck, but what can I do to get better that's just like easy? And then how can I make a little game plan for myself on Thursday practice and Friday mornings practice ahead of the races on round 3? How can I make a little game plan for myself to get better? Like what should be my goals working on each track session, right? Instead of just like go fast, don't suck, which is what I was already trying to do. What can I actually do? And so if you watch that last video, I had a bunch of things to work on, and what was pretty cool, what I was pretty happy about is, if you go back and watch it, I was like, hey, basically there were a number of things I wanted to work on, and I have right here a 129.4. So the blue lap is quicker than green lap. What is that? 400ths of a second. So basically exactly the same time. However, this is from practice. So the 129.4 is from my, what is this? The 7th? Is this a Thursday or Friday practice? I think this is Friday morning practice. And I was intentionally just trying to work on some of the things this morning session from my last video, and we can actually go through, right? So we can look turn 1. I've just double clicked on turn 1 coming down the home straight going into turn 1. Oh, where is it? Here, right here. Oh, pull this over. Okay, so here's the section that I want to look at, right? Turn 1 coming in here. Oh, so turn 1 coming in, you can see my line. Again, the blue lap is Friday morning practice. And one of the things I talked about in the last video was I was trying not to hug the inside line so much going into turn 1, so that I could have more flexibility to increase my lean angle, which could then give me more confidence, carrying more lean into turn 1, which would mean I could come in a little quicker. So I was working on that right here, you can see. And if we switch to time view, you can see a green line is ahead of blue line. So as we get to this point, I was carrying more speed into the corner in my round 2 lap, the green dot, than I was in the blue. So at this point in turn 1, my new Friday practice lap is slower. I'm farther behind because I wasn't trying to race into turn 1. I was just trying to practice working on being a little wider. Okay, so then we come into this connector section where we spent tons of time in the last video. And if we look, we can see, so again, at the top here, this is RPM, which is not as useful right now. The second one is throttle. I just have it set to degrees of throttle rotation. The next one is speed, and the third one here is lean angle. And then the bottom is time compare again, and time compare, if the green line here is above the blue axis, that means the green dot's going quicker. Although, again, if you take an inside line, you get in some extra time. And if the green line is below, it means the green line is slower. So that's just a refresher on what we're looking at. So I spent loads of time on this because what I was doing, and we reviewed it in the practice, is I was having these slow and long throttle applications, look at the green throttle, in this connector that pushed me offline and actually made me slower, even though I spent more time on the throttle. And because I wasn't online, I could not really engage the throttle particularly aggressively. And so you can see the slope of this green throttle versus this blue throttle, and you can look where the dots are, right? Because I came in a little slower, I'm able to be online better with the blue dot, and then apply my throttle much more aggressively, more steeply, and then stop and start getting direction for the next corner. Whereas before, I was still carrying throttle, a good extra chunk, but much less throttle. So anyway, I was working on this all Thursday and all Friday, and it felt much better. I was really happy with it. It was like less stressful as well because I wasn't still on the throttle while I really, look at the green dot here. I want to be setting up for the next corner, but I'm still carrying throttle. And then again here, for the second part of the connector, right, make the turn. You can look at the gyro, right? So we pull throttle on, come down here, look at the gyro. The blue line on this gyro is leaning to the left right now, you can see where's the 0 spot on the blue line. I'm looking right here. You see right here. So, okay, so this white line you can barely see is the 0 axis. So pull the throttle on as I'm taking away lean angle. So this section right here is my max lean angle to the left and on the practice session, the blue dot. And as I'm taking away, I'm adding throttle. So this is like no longer garbage, right? Like there was this problem I had before where if you look at the green line here, I add a ton of lean angle and I'm still adding throttle. That's part of why it felt bad. So I got rid of all that. Feels great. And then no throttle whatsoever here. When I flip the bike over, get back on line, and then boom, now look at the blue line again. We're adding throttle nice and, well, not nice and sharp, but much more sharply while taking away lean, getting around here, nice and outside, and then no throttle here as we lean back over. And then that gets us through to the next section, exit turn 2 into deep turn 3. And so my line here, if you watched the last video, was explicitly working on not being so tight at the at the first apex of turn 2, because then my throttle application was really slow because I didn't have freaking direction, just pointing at the wall. And if you look at the green line on throttle of what I was doing before, look how slowly I have to ramp on the throttle as we go through this section, right? I don't get to max throttle until I'm all the way out here in the previous section. Whereas now, because I've come wider and made sure I'm nice and wide, I can lean the bike over, boom, we're leaning, look at the gyro, right? Like max lean is basically here, although, you know, I'm sort of maintaining it a little bit, but I can crank the throttle up, boom, immediately, not immediately, I'm still slow, but much, much better. Look at the gap here between the blue and the green. And I didn't mention it in the past section, but look at the speed, right? GPS speed. These lines probably look like they're right on top of each other, but for the entire connector section, I'm carrying, look at the GPS speed, 5 to 8 miles an hour more speed in the blue line. And so even though I was slow in, when we look at a time compare section, right, the blue dot was behind the green dot going into this corner. Now I've switched to time view. Look how much I make up on the blue dot now as we go through this section. Boom. And so now even though I was not rushing down the home straight, not max throttle, not going into turn 1 as hot as I know I could go, I've already overtaken the green dot just in this connector section, and I'm set up for a better drive out of turn 2. So there we get the better drive, boom. The RPM is pretty smooth, and yeah, so that's pretty nice. And then when I get here, it looks like I add a little more lean angle and take away a little throttle, and I don't actually carry max throttle again on the blue, whereas, right, like I max out here, boom, and then I sort of roll off the throttle a little bit, although I still keep adding RPM pretty linearly. Then I'm coasting into turn 3, and this, again, I was not trying to set my fastest lap time. I was trying to set up for what we talked about in the last video, which was my corner speed and my line and my direction for turn 3 were fucking terrible. And so instead of going, where's my speed? Boom. So I'm intentionally coming out here and trying to get max speed in the blue line, so in my practice, for this section of the corner, but then I'm not holding the throttle. I'm just chilling so that I can have more time and to prep and set up and get my eyes and my vision right for turn 3 so that I'm not scaring myself and so that I can carry more corner speed and do a better line. Anyway, so I'm off throttle right here, less before here, but I'm basically completely off throttle right here in my practice session, even though I actually carried the throttle all the way here in green. Again, these are the same lap times, right? So you can run the same lap time just by doing better and then not carrying, and then you don't have to go as fast into corners. So here, right, I'm doing like almost 100 in the green versus 95 in the blue, and I get all this nice slow braking zone, braking a little, you know, the blue speed gap is 10 miles an hour slow now, 12 miles an hour slower coming into the corner, which is just so nice for confidence and having more time to see what's going on. Then I start a little bit of lean here in the blue, which is a little earlier because I'm going slower, right? And then carry the lean nicely through, and you can see the time compare you shouldn't really look at because it's mostly inside line versus outside line. But when it comes, I basically look at the gyro right here. I lean, boom, get my leaning done, 35 miles an hour. And then this is the most important bit. This speed curve right here, where my mouse is, this middle graph, because the blue is slower from corner entry all the way down to apex. But look what happens right here. I know it's tiny. I don't know how to make it bigger. I'm done. At this point, I'm doing 30 miles an hour in the blue. So, you know, I think I've done this corner at like 34 before or something like that. So I know I could go a little quicker, but I'm doing 30 in the blue. But in my previous lap, this is the same lap time, I went all the way down to 25 out here in Africa. So I was very happy with this, working on it. It felt good. Then we get to the section coming out, and now we can see that because of the speed differential in the corner, even though I'm much more aggressive on the RPM in the green, and the throttle applications are the same coming out the hill, just up the initial part of the hill. So even though, how to put it, I'm more aggressive in round 2 on this lap, coming up the hill and out the hill, give it more throttle, more engine RPM. But because I overslowed, I'm actually not going faster. And so the speeds don't actually, all of that extra aggression doesn't even translate to anything until this section right here, where you can see from here to here, the speed of the green is slightly faster. But the speed of the green is faster in this tiny little section because I had to be so much more aggressive, which is like, this is not a good place to be more aggressive. This is also where I high-sided last year. But then look, I have to back out of the throttle in the green, whereas I'd got direction, I got everything. So the blue, I can hold a constant throttle without being crazy all the way up the hill. And if you look at the time compare, it's pretty cool to see the different dots, right? You can see as we come through here, that all translates into the green getting absolutely smoked. And again, this is the same lap time, but it's just different, running in a different way, which is nice. And I'm not stressing on this version. All right, then we get down into 6, coming down into 6, boom, 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 boom. So what I wanted to work on here was, from the last video, this section, speed in this section right here, because I'd compared myself to Demetrio and he was gaining on me, even though we had the same exact speed at the slowest point of the corner. So I was just trying to come in, not necessarily hotter, but for the straight up and down section of the corner, don't overslow basically, and then still reach the same slowest point in the corner. So because of all the stuff earlier, carrying more open throttle earlier, and then turned off at the same point, about the same point. I mean, what's the difference? It's here versus here. Yeah, so turning off at the same point, which is nice because I'm consistent. 5 miles an hour higher, but then look at the speed. It looks like they're the same, but all the way in here, I'm carrying 5 miles an hour more, right? I mean, here, this is 6 miles an hour. This gap between these two, 6 miles an hour. So I'm carrying more speed in, which is exactly what I wanted to practice. And if you switch to time view again, just here, you can see that the blue dot ends up being ahead coming into the corner, which is great. And then at the slowest point, I actually ended up going a little wider in the practice session to give myself more of a drive up the hill, which is what Demetrio was doing. So if I'm just looking at the graph here, right? So he was going more up the hill to have more of a straight section around the back. So I was practicing doing the same thing there. And so when we come out here, you see that my tight inside line with the green dot from round 2 is not able to get to more than, 33 degrees of throttle at its max. Whereas my wider line, I was able to ramp up all the way to 70 degrees of throttle and comfortably, right? And like the lean angle situation is actually less in the blue line as well. So I'm not, right? Like look at the throttle goes vroom, nice. And then the lean angle gets taken away. Well, except for this little bit right here, which is not ideal. But from here to here, I'm taking all this away. I'm making this whole section nice and straight, which means that even though right here, I was going a little slow, so I probably did overslow for this section right here, all the way down this back section up through the top of the hill, and then switching back to the right, I'm carrying more speed in the blue, which is really good. Felt really happy. Lastly, nearly done with this comparison, coming downhill, right? So from the last video, my line, you can tell which ones of these is the green line versus new one. My line was so close to the air fence here that I was really late flipping the bike over to the right, coming sort of into 10 and out of 10, and then really delayed getting on the throttle. And if you're starting to see what these charts mean, you can see already that I fixed that, which makes me really happy. Well, I don't know if it's fixed, but it's better, because In the green section, I was cracking open the throttle for a long time in 9. Look at this green. I'm like on throttle from here. I mean, I'm not, it's like so early in the corner, all the way through the turn. And all of that throttle, this green line right here, all that throttle is locking in my line, but I don't have direction, so it pushes me wide and means that then when I want to flip over to the right for this drive out of 10, I'm kind of fucked. So now I waited to crack the throttle until the bike was coming back round, and you can see that it's coming back round because of where the bike is, but then also if you look at gyro, it's kind of the same, it's consistent. Anyway, short, sharp throttle, right? It's not short and it's not sharp, but it's shorter and it's sharper, so nice throttle blip without this long extended duration pause, and then off immediately here, so off earlier because we're more to the left of the track and the blue dot, which means I can flip the bike back over. Look at the gyro, boom, throttle off, flip the bike over, and then now I'm able to be, the blue is technically 1 degree lean to the right in the blue, while the green is still 10 degrees to the left. And the green has to be 10 degrees to the left because I've only just got off the throttle and there's a fucking wall right here. So get all this right, get the leaning done to the right. This tiny little throttle application in the blue is probably a mistake. I shouldn't be doing that. But if we say from here onwards, right, I'm basically able to get on throttle and blue right here and have a nice straight, whereas the green has still got more leaning to do and more turning to do. And you can see the actual lean angle is the same, right? The max lean angle is 25 degrees to the right, but we're all good. We get nice drive out. And so when we look at speed, yeah, for this bit where I had the long extended throttle in 9 on the green, I was going, 6 miles an hour faster, but that's speed that you don't want because I'm pointing in the wrong direction. And then here, coming out of 10, I get this nice extended drive out in the blue, which is all that I wanted to work on from that last video. Lastly, coming out here, this final sector I am very bad at, and I still am bad at it. It was those other things I was mostly trying to work on. But you can see that I was doing the same thing, same principles basically, which is I was coming in slower. So look at the speed. The green is actually faster coming into this last section. However, higher corner speed in blue. So higher corner speed, leaning more confidently, as in like I get leaned over on this line faster. And then I had this whole bit looking at Dimitro versus myself from the last section where the green dot was basically going too far. I wasn't, for this last section right here, I was basically cutting this corner, early apexing this first right in the last little chicane, whatever. And that meant that I felt like I had to go so slow. And because I was going so slow in this section, the bike was unstable, and then it was awkward and hard to get a drive around this corner. Whereas you can see that I tried to go wider, just like Dimitri was doing, going into it, which then gave me more confidence to be a little faster, right? It's not a lot, right? 29 miles an hour in the green, 34 in the blue. It's not a lot, but it's enough. And it means that I've got a lot more lean angle and I felt more comfortable leaning in the blue, right? 35 degrees to the right because the bike was more stable. And when we get to the throttle percentage bit coming out here from this section of the track to this section, when I'm here, I still, if you look right here, I had to back out of the throttle in the green. So like I was, look at the shape of the throttle roll on. It's exactly the same to this point in the corner, but then I back out in the green. Why do I back out? Look right here. I add an extra 5 degrees of lean. So I needed the extra 5 degrees of lean and to back out the throttle to make sure I didn't hit the wall. I think I did anyway. Maybe I didn't, but my brain thought I did. Whereas we get all this done nicely. Look at this little throttle, right? Again, same habit in the green was throttle on early and long. In the blue, throttle on later, sharper, and you get the same result with more confidence and everything's smoother and you're in the right spot and the right line, and then you get a sharper throttle. Anyway, all this stuff came together. I was super happy with it. It's pretty cool to see because it's the same lap time, but just run really differently. So if we just do a full lap real quick before we go on from this. And again, blue is just practice where I'm practicing the things that I talked about from the last video. You can see the green's ahead there. Green's ahead there. Look how much time we're going to gain right here in this section. This is so funny because it's just what Dimitri looked like on me in 3. Coming into the ball. There you go, right? Green is quick around here, but then as we come up over the hill, blue catches him again. And then as we come through 9 and 10, blue is smoother and better. boom, 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 ran through here, and we tied up, and boom. And that is the same exact lap time to, 400ths of a second. So pretty cool. I was really happy with that. However, the real thing that was the thing that was most important is putting this all together in a race where all of a sudden I stopped being so scared I stopped backing off in the straights. And so if we get rid of the May time now and we just look, we've got blue, red. I'm going to make this red so we have a different color set. Okay. In the race, putting all this together, I did a 126.4. I took exactly 3.1 seconds off that practice time. And you can see the timestamp. This is it's like half an hour later or something, which is kind of crazy. And so, yeah, let's go through this. All right, so this is my 126 versus 129. We're in the lab. And just before I start, it was quite funny. This same morning, I think it was Friday morning, Anthony in my garage blitzed me in one of the practices. And he comes up to me afterwards and he goes, "Hey, I have a question for you." And I'm like, "Yeah." And he goes, "Are you not opening the throttle on the straights?" And I was kind of sheepish and I was embarrassed because I was kind of being a pussy about it. But also, I'd spent all morning working on the thing that I was talking about for the previous 20 minutes in the video. And this will only be quick because there's actually nothing new to talk about in this video. The 126 versus the 129, this is the same fucking lap. And it's exactly the same lap. I just opened the throttle coming out of all the corners and then applied the brakes more until I got to the apex. Or, until I was done braking. And so I think this is only, it's been 20 minutes or something. This is only a 5 or 10 minute session. So first, let me just show you the laps I'll put it on time view. This is what the lap looks like when you actually apply the throttle coming out of the corner. So the red, even though it's red, is, just to be consistent, that's the 126. And the blue is the 129 from half an hour earlier. As this is time view, so as the dots won't be lined up with each other. Coming into turn one, exactly the fucking same. Exactly the same. GPS speed is 1 mile an hour different. Slowest point in the corner, 1 mile an hour faster in the red. But the dots, right? We can zoom in if we want. They're pretty fucking similar, right? Coming through the connector section, right on top of each other. Slowest speed, pretty similar. I get slightly, you can look at the throttle applications and just see I just go a little harder on the throttle, a little bit. That's it. Now here's the difference though. Watch this. Boom. All of a sudden, what changed? How did we gain all that time off the lap? I just opened the fucking throttle, right? Just went max everywhere instead of halfway. But the turn off point for the throttle, exactly the same point. Okay, so what changes coming out of here? Look at that gap we open up just with more throttle, and then it's consistent. Going into the corner, the gap's pretty consistent. Coming out, slightly wider line, but basically the same. And then shooting out, look here, we're just holding the throttle longer, harder, and shorter, sharper. So now we've opened up a huge gap. But the actual thing I was doing is exactly the same. Come around the corner. Now, we do take this corner faster. So right here, we get a nice apex here at 43 miles an hour slowest point, whereas with the slow lap, we went down to 36. So did take that corner faster. And on the gyro, we got, and again, the lean in this corner is kind of fake because of the banking, but we got a good amount of lean there, slightly more. Then we come up here. This is all the same, right? It's basically just slightly more top speed. The gap's pretty consistent. The line's pretty consistent. And then again, look at the throttle, right? We've got harder drive on in red. Boom, boom, boom. And so when we come out, we have that big of a gap. That gap, that's a 3-second gap, and it's literally the same fucking lap. So let's put it back on distance real quick. Just go through this for a couple minutes just to show you. All right, entering turn one. Entering turn one's a little scuffed here. Okay, here we go. Okay, so we enter turn one, and again, red is the 26, blue is the 29. Right here, the blue is doing 117 G, and the red's doing 114. So I'm talking about how happy I am with the 126, and I actually went slower on the home straight than I did in the 129. Isn't that funny? Anyway, even though I went slower, I rolled off here in the blue and here in the red. So I rolled off more slowly. So when I rolled off with the blue, it was a sharp exit, and with the red, I rolled off gradually to this point, which maintains speed a little bit. And then my my GoPro. 2 beeps for 2 downshifts right here, which are also a little later. And so I'm carrying, what is that, 84, 92, 6, 8, yes, 6 miles an hour plus 2, 8 miles an hour more into the corner just for this section right here. This braking section is faster. But then actually, as is always the case when I'm going in a little hot, I end up overslowing for the entry a little bit. And so the blue catches right back up with the speed and the red dips down, so that by the time we get to the sort of, I think this is the apex or to the end of the turn 1, it's pretty consistent between the two of them. Then we get to the connector section. Coming out here, the red line was a little wider. You can see right here, the red line's a little wider. The throttle application for red was actually shorter, presumably because I'd gone wide a little bit. So I was able to get more throttle in the blue. However, the red speed maintain was higher, right? Look at GPS speed, red 45, 46, 47. So I did maintain a little more speed, and then the speed's even here. Now the blue, also, yeah, so this throttle application does mean that blue is a little more speed in the interbit of the connector. We get back online, throttle applied a fraction earlier in red, but then that earlier is also sharper. So I'm accelerating. Yes, actually, I think this is better for red, right? Like I did to the blue lap here what the blue lap did to the green lap, in that I put the throttle on sharper and didn't hold it as long, which got me on the better line. And then for the next setup corner, I was on a better line, was able to go faster and put this much more throttle on sooner in the red. And again, we're talking about a difference of like a couple miles an hour. It's like basically negligible. Boom. And then we get to the exit. And then this is the Anthony comment. The real difference is just going to be the exit. And both, the blue starts with the throttle there. The red starts with the throttle there. It's not a huge difference in throttle application point. The blue line actually ends up going a little wider and the lean angles get a little funky. But when we come out of the corner, I got to even pull this down. There you go. When we come out of the corner with the red, right, we're neck and neck. But as we go here, look at this is what my RPM was doing before in the blue section, but now we just hold the throttle. We go more, and then we go more. And I say we just hold, right? I'm still backing out of this thing. I'm not going crazy. I'm still backing out. There's free time here, but still we go much faster here. And so the top speed is, GPS speed is 5 miles an hour ahead of time for most of this section. And then this whole section, we're also 5 miles an hour faster. And then once we roll off a little later. We roll off later because we're braking harder. And then we carry the speed in. And what I'm so happy about is when we get here to the slowest point in the corner, I make these two charts line up. And so, yeah, I know I can go faster here, but the practice paid off, and we get from A to B. Vision was dialed in. We get to the same speed at the same slowest point in the corner at basically the same speed. And so all of this going faster did not translate into overslowing for the corner because I knew what I was doing. Oh, that's this one. Because I'd been practicing all morning. All right, then coming out of here, boom. I mean, this kind of speaks for itself. Pretty much the same lap, right? Like even if I just do time compare, you see anything different here? I mean, line's a little different, but right? Like if we look at the start, the red was a little wider here and then came a little tighter here. Red's, what was that? That's a tiny fraction ahead there by, it's about 2 miles an hour difference. 2 miles an hour, but basically it's the same fucking lap. Nothing out of there is different for that section. And then for bowl entry, right? Now this is where the lines were a little different. The lines diverged a bit. We saw that earlier. If we put it on time compared just for this section, red comes in hotter, right? And you can see that when I rolled off later and carried more speed in just because we rolled off later. So there you go, 5 miles an hour more. And then we come around the corner, get to my bowl exit, boom. And then this is where the lines were a little different. So the blue line went wider, the red line was tighter. And if you just, again, go to this section, that's how much of a gap red, the 126 opened up in this corner, which is actually quite a substantial gap. And where it is from, which is funny, is like blue got lots of throttle here, but which I was happy with, but from a GPS speed basis, when blue went all the way out here, I had to drop to freaking 35 miles an hour. And so I just wasn't carrying the speed through the corner. Whereas the 126 lap was carrying, just didn't drop below 43. So we get to carry all this speed through this whole section with the red. And as a result, we open up a huge gap from just carrying a little more corner speed. The exit, anything special here to talk about? Basically, it's the same lap. Oh, that's what we just did. Sorry. Okay, the downhill section. Now, let's see. Let's take a comparison just of this section. See if there's any difference in these laps. Now you can see the red line gets a little speed, more corner speed, and that's it. What is that difference? 5 miles an hour difference. And what is this difference? 10 miles an hour. So the difference between these two laps in this downhill section going into sort of 8, 9, 10 is just a little more speed, corner speed here, carrying the roll speed basically. And it's so funny to look at the red line again. Look at the ECU throttle. It does to the blue what the blue did to the green, as in the throttle is actually off sooner. Although, wait, let me line these up. Yep. Oh, shit. Yeah, there you go. The throttle is off sooner. I turned off the throttle here in the red, carried it smidge extra, just a little bit extra in the blue. So it was shorter in the red, get flipped over, boom. And then when we drive out, I was done with the drive out in the blue here. And for a 126, you actually, I know this is shocking to me, but you actually, if you want to go faster, you do not roll out of your, or you do not stop your throttle roll on coming out of 10 at this point in the corner. I know, it's shocking. I suspect you also don't stop it here, but we'll see. We'll see if I can get better at this. All right, so that's the downhill section. And then the last section, we've got any difference in these lines right here. Let's take a little look. What are we doing? Red, what are we doing on speed? So speed, slowest point of the corner here. Red's 2 miles an hour slower. So we were actually slower here, but we were a little faster through this first section. I'm a little curious what that looks like on the time compare, how much of a gap we opened up. So we were faster coming in the red. Then we hugged a line even more to the left inside. The blue ended up being a little quicker for that turn. Carrying more lean angle really helped, but it was late lean angle. And then on the exit, what is the red throttle? Red picks up the throttle there. Doesn't shut it off like blue does, which is probably hurting my ability to get flipped over. But as we're coming out here, red is already on sooner. Got 2-3 miles an hour of extra speed. Got the throttle on sooner, and then cracks it to full. I'm just looking at the throttle here. Cracks it to full. So there you go. That's the last section. I mean, look, this is the same. This is the same. This is all basically the same. Kind of strange the ECU's lines are so different. I wonder what's going on there. But look, this is quick because actually all the improvements happened in the 129 lap. All the improvements happened in the blue lap, and going from the 129 to the 126 was basically just give it a bit more here, and yeah, carry a bit more speed, right? Come out of these corners, roll off a little later here, and that's a bit more speed here. Anyway, I think that's pretty cool. That's the 126. What I need now is to do the same thing with some bodies or with a fast, 124 time or something like that, so that I can see what is next. And I suspect it might just be more of the same. Like, I think there are improvements to be made here. In fact, what we can do is go to my split times report and figure out what my best theoretical is. Best theoretical was 126.0. All right, so just from these splits here that we've got cooked up, I have a 126.013, which is 13 thousandths off a 125. So if I just keep optimizing this ride, I can push to a 120, high 125. Although I will say, I think I need more of these. Like, if you just look at what I did in the race, 33, 29, 29, 28, 28. This was traffic, 27. Got the white flag, thought, okay, I'll just give it everything I've got for the last lap, 26. And with the 28, this was a personal best, this 28 was a personal best. It's a shame the splits are bad here because you can actually see I was going pretty fast for this lap until we got traffic. And then this 27 was a personal best, and 26 was a personal best. So I was feeling fucking great this day. And this session was good. When I got to the 26, I wish I could have got another 5 laps out like that, but I only have the one. So I'm just saying I don't actually, just because I'm like, wow, I'm so great. You know, I took 3 seconds off my time. This is a 1 lap thing. Whereas, you know, my consistent time is more like, I don't know what's going on with these, but it's more like a 1:28, right? But we've got this. So hopefully I can see a 1:24 at some point later this season. And that's my next goal to work on. And I suspect it's going to be doing more of these same improvements. Anyway, we'll see. Cool. Thanks. Hopefully people enjoyed this. If not, at least I will get to re-listen to it on the drive to round 4, which is like a 45-minute drive, an hour drive for me. And these videos are so helpful for that drive. And I'll bring the GoPro to round 4.